Yeah.
So the great thing about using TikTok, okay, is its percentage. 110 pallets. What was his overhead? I'll tell you what, TikTok take 10% of everything he sells.
Network and connect. Go the extra mile with Alan and Eric. Good morning, Ernie. Thanks for coming in today.
It's my pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us again. This is Ernie. Ernie joined the Royal Navy at 16 as an artificer apprentice in 1978. Artificer. His 20-year career, he rose to Chief Petty Officer. He enjoyed playing rugby and judo while nurturing a passion for stand-up comedy. Upon leaving the Navy, Ernie pursued comedy full-time, later becoming a product demonstrator. His 26-year journey as a self-employed professional through numerous business ventures, financial highs and lows. But through it all, Ernie maintains his positive outlook. And I can say you've definitely got that. His diverse experience showcases resilience, adaptability, and an unwavering spirit in the face of challenges. So, my first question is, why are you called Ernie?
Okay, well, my real name's Bartholomew.
So, nice name.
So, of course, yeah. Well, my surname's Earnshaw. So one of the common traits in the Navy or the Army, as you'd know, is we'd always have a nickname.
Yeah.
So I was Earnshaw. So I became Ernie Earnshaw. And later on, I became Big Ernie, and that was my stage name. And Big Ernie's was the name of my American diner that I built. We'll come back to that later. As I said, my real name's Bartholomew. I was born in Gibraltar, as you can tell by my swarthy Mediterranean good looks. I was born on the 24th of August, 1962. So I'm now 62 years old.
That means we're both ladies.
Yeah, where did that 62 years go? And I was born on, and my father was a chief petty officer in the Navy, and it's 24th of August, and he's walking down the street in Gibraltar, handing out cigars to everybody, and he came across the padre, the priest. And the padre says, "Chief, you're very happy." He said, "I've just had a son, a big bouncing boy." So the priest said to my father, "Well, today's St. Bartholomew's Day. Why don't you call him Bartholomew?" Which my dad thought was quite funny. He'd had a couple of drinks. So, of course, then he went to see my mother in the hospital. And actually, I was originally supposed to be being called Travis.
Oh, my God.
But my father said, "Hey, the priest has said, you know, St. Bartholomew's Day, we should call him Bartholomew." And my mother goes, "That's a great idea." So that's how I ended up being called Bartholomew. But do you know what I was glad about?
What?
I wasn't born on Pancake Day.
Absolutely. I could make some other jokes about that, but another time perhaps. Who'd have guessed that about your name? Anyway, reflecting on your journey, what inspired you to transition from what you're then doing, which was traditional market trading, to become Ernie the Elf and to go for Christmas fairs?
Okay, well, it was a long way down the line, and I was forced, due to personal circumstances, to make a total change in what I did. I'd had to move to Poland, and we had a farm in Poland. And as I said earlier, I was a shipwright, an artificer, I was a skilled man. So we started making, I'd seen this product, wooden reindeer, and I looked at the product and I knew they sold well. And I thought, I can make those and I can sell them. So my plan was then I could spend all year on the farm in Poland making them, and then spend 2 months in the UK selling them.
So it was the reindeers that was the breakthrough for you?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was another product.
Yeah.
I sell stuff. I've always sold stuff, but this was something that I could make myself and sell it.
Yeah.
So the overheads were relatively low.
I mean, there's a great lesson for people just there. So can you share the story behind your first experience at a Christmas fair and how it influenced your business direction?
Okay, my first experience, very quickly, I started making the reindeer. And of course, you've got to sell them at Christmas. And you can't just walk onto these markets, you have to book them 6 months in advance.
They were talking about market fairs in different villages and towns around.
Well, they're towns.
Just
They'd
Britain.
normally be Roman town like Winchester,
Right.
and York.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And so you have to apply for these. You have to pay up front. And of course, I didn't know who was going to accept me. It was a brand new product. So I applied for everywhere.
Yeah.
And guess what? Everywhere said yes.
So that became expensive, I guess.
It became very expensive. But not only that, I had to make the reindeer. I had to get staff to sell the reindeer. So then I had to get the reindeer from Poland to the UK, which I'm talking about an articulated lorry full. So the first Christmas fair I would remember would be something like I got onto Salisbury Christmas Market, and I thought, oh, this is going to be fantastic. And I had some guys working for me, and we set up. We're talking you're there for 4 or 5 weeks. This is not a small commitment. And so we're at Salisbury, and I'm expecting it all to be bells and whistles and everything. And you sort of come back at the end of the first day and you say to the guys working for you, how was it? Oh, not very good. Now, can you imagine that? You've been working all year. You've paid out every penny you've got.
And you had to find accommodation and all that kind of stuff
Salisbury
as well.
wasn't a problem because we were based in Portsmouth.
Oh, right.
There was Winchester Christmas Market, which is another super busy.
Yeah.
That was another problem, but when you ask me that, you can ask me about that one if you want. But we're covering to Salisbury. Unfortunately, Salisbury just didn't do anything. It used to get lots and lots of coach loads of elderly people who were coming to visit Salisbury, but they just want to walk around. They go to Greg's. They don't want to carry a big long reindeer. This is a problem when you get a product. How are they going to get it home? Are you going to send it for them? Which is obviously modern day retail.
Yeah.
You don't have to we deliver for free.
So what motivated you to start creating the wooden toys, ornaments, humorous signs, and how have these products evolved over time?
Okay, well, originally it was just the reindeer. It was the Rudolph. I saw it. I was on a market in Cardiff, and I'd not done particularly well myself with the products that I was selling. And this Welsh guy was bragging how many of these Rudolphs he'd sold. And then he told me, I said, how many have you sold in a day? He said, about 240 in a day. And I went, oh, okay. And I said, oh, sorry, no. He said he'd sold 150 in a day. And I said, oh, how much do you sell them for? And he goes, £20 or £25 personalised. I've gone, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? There's a lot of money there for wooden logs. And I actually said to the guy, I said, look, you say you can't make these quick enough, because he said he was making them in his back shed. He was an electrician. So I suggested to him, well, why don't I make them? You said you haven't got the room, you haven't got the time to make them. I've got the room and I've got the time. And he gave me his phone number. I messaged him after Christmas and I had no reply. So I thought, well, fair enough. I'm going to do it myself. And I'm not going to go to the same area that he was in, but the UK is a big place. And that's how.
So you basically picked it up by default.
Yeah, by default. And I hadn't even got a photo.
It just shows you saw an opportunity and you took it. So how do you balance the nostalgic charm of traditional wooden toys with the modern expectations of today's consumers?
Well, I came into contact with a guy called Dave. It was a great networking thing. The guys you meet over the years, someone goes, I know someone who will be able to help you.
Yeah.
And the marketplace had changed in the UK. COVID obviously had happened.
Yeah, big difference.
Big difference. I thought they couldn't cancel Christmas, but they did, which I'd worked all year making the reindeer. So I had a lot of reindeer. And first year back after COVID, Christmas was fantastic. The next year was a drop-off, considerable drop-off. and I needed to add products to the range. And of course, I met this Dave, and the products came from Bali. They were the stuff that you see on the side of the street in Ubud. And he'd been here for about 20 years. He'd managed to weed through the products that sold, the products that didn't sell. He also had a couple of shops, so we could retail the goods all year round, and you could get a feel for something. But of course, on a Christmas market, you're very restricted on space. At York, which is my primary outlet now, I'm blessed. I've got the biggest cabin on there, and due to the situation, they let me spread out a little bit. But again, you have to be very careful. Basically, it's space, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's no good putting a reindeer that's this big and you can only fit 3 of them on, because you'd have to charge £1,000 each for them.
Yeah.
Again, people in this and doing stuff from Bali, but basically call them smalls. So what do you say? I sell smalls. So things like the signs, as you referenced, of course, they go up on the wall. So they don't take up any space. They just cover it. It's great. It's free space, because you pay, really, it's for floor space. You know, and of course, then you put
so that's maximising the use of the space available, really, isn't it?
Of course.
So nothing's wasted.
No, and you might even look up and think, oh my goodness, I can hang something from there, like a birdhouse.
Yeah, I think it's a great lesson in that for anybody in any type of business, to take the space you've got and make it really work for you. And you're obviously an expert at that.
I do look at it and work out how much each bit of space cost me. Basically, the huts on the markets are sold by size. So you have to work out how much display room you have. So you can actually narrow it down to how much each square metre or foot, whatever you're working in, is actually costing you, and what is the best way to utilise that. So working it out in dollars, okay, how many dollars does that bit of space cost me? Okay, and then the best way of utilising it to get the best return on that.
So let's go back to a Christmas fair again. What do you think is the key element of the Christmas fair that really captivates your visitors?
Well, I want to talk about York, which you know well.
I do.
What a beautiful city. What a place to go for Christmas. It embodies everything you're going to want to do if you're there with a partner. And therefore, with York, they've built one of the best Christmas markets there. There's great food, there's great music, there's great products. And quite often on these sort of markets is they're trying to have people selling stuff that you can't get in the shop.
Diversity.
Yeah, diversity. And of course, the word artisan always comes up, handmade. We do a lot of sustainable products. Again, from this area, we use bamboo root, which is obviously native to Indonesia. And but the whole thing is the atmosphere. People can walk around, hopefully safely, with a nice hot chocolate, and these hot chocolates are epic. And there's a lot of now online, when I say advertising, TikTok. People know, they see when I do my lives. When I do my live on York, I might be there live for 2 or 3 hours. People can actually see it. They can actually feel the atmosphere. So they want to bring their kids there. And of course, I've got Santa's workshop. I'm dressed up as an elf. So who are they going to come and see? They're going to bring the kids to see the elf.
Yeah. The thing that I find fascinating about this is we have a product that comes from Bali, tropical island.
Yeah.
And the best marketplace for it is in the winter in Europe.
It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
I did not realise how many people buy ducks, wooden ducks. People are crazy for them, and they get them all painted up in different outfits, nurses, firemen. So again, it's a very simple gift. But if your father was a fireman, and let's face facts, Dad's the hardest guy in the world to buy a present for, because he buys whatever he wants. But Mum says to the kids, he's a fireman duck. Should we should we buy him?
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So I think with anything, it's solving problems. you understand what I mean? It's like a product, be it a kitchen utensil, it could be an online course. When you've got to solve a problem, and one of the problem that I solve for many thing is, what do we buy this person? People want a present that's $15. It could be for someone who's been babysitting their dogs while they're away for the weekend. So a simple way of saying thank you. And again, something that's handcrafted, like a sign that they can put on the wall. When I say it's the gift that keeps giving, it's a box of chocolates. They eat the chocolates, they're gone.
Do you find that your sales go up when you sell the stuff personally, or
I don't have anyone working for me.
They don't have anybody.
Nobody can take the money that I take.
I was going to say, so it's your personality, and I'm guessing that's what led to you to develop a character.
Yes, 100%. I started off, as I said, I would be wearing festive jumpers. I was just the same as everybody else walking around in a festive jumper. A big thing was I used to make these snowmen. And of course, this is a very important lesson for anyone who's listening. I used to make the reindeer, out of wooden logs. Very simple, but there'd be lots of offcuts. This was stuff I used to throw onto the fire. And then I'd be thinking, well, hold on, I can use these offcuts to make these little snowmen. Again, I'll supply you some photos of that so you can see that. Now, everybody loves the snowman. And of course, I would sell the snowman at £10. The Rudolphs were 20. But if you buy Rudolph today, I give you a snowman free. Everyone goes, I'm getting a snowman free. And they're fantastic. They are great, the snowmen. And again, they last forever. People can put them in their garden. And so I started doing that. There is a funny story why I ended up doing them for free, because they were £10. The Rudolphs were 20, and it was the first Christmas show indoors at the NEC in Birmingham. And I've been working all year making the reindeer. I've been paying all the wages for the guys helping me, the shipping. I had no money, and I was desperate to get some money in. So I said they're £10, the Rudolphs are 20, and everyone's going, yeah, that's nice. And I stopped everybody. I said, stop. I said, I'm going to give the first 10 people who buy a reindeer a free snowman. How about that? Oh, I said, you don't have to carry them. Leave them with me. Pick them up at the end. I'll personalise them. Do you want some kids' names on there? What? And we're getting a free snowman. Yes, you're getting the snowman free. So they would go, yes. So then the next people walking up, I said, stop. I've got to tell you the offer, because I'm only doing it until midday today. So you can come back later. It doesn't matter. But the snowman's £10, Rudolph's 20. If you buy Rudolph now, before 12 o'clock, I'll give you a free snowman. You can leave it up here. And I stopped everyone. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm stopping people saying, you better buy them, because they're almost all gone. Do you know why they're all gone? Because I've been giving away that snowman free. And that was the birth. That's when the business took off from that day.
That's when the idea hit you.
Yeah, everyone. It was only an offcut. It was the offcut. It was going on the fire. But I made this great looking little snowman out of it. Sid the Snowman. There we go.
Okay. So reflect on the journey. What inspired you to transition from a traditional market trader to embodying Ernie the Elf in the Christmas fair process?
Well, I was selling the reindeer. I'd now found the key to actually selling more of them, but now I wanted to take it to the next level. So I thought, okay, Santa's workshop. Everyone's going to love a Santa's workshop. I was going to Chatsworth House, a Christmas market, for about 3 weeks. And so you got like a garden shed. I thought, well, I'm going to stick snow on top of that, the fake snow. And I put up fake snowmen, blow up snowmen and signs, North Pole, reindeer parking only. And then I thought, well, we've got Santa's workshop. We need the elves. Santa's elves. And I knew a lady who could make the costumes, and I said, please, can you make me 4 Santa the Elf, elf costumes, and the elf was born. And of course, then it went crazy. I had singing Santas on the stand, and I'm dancing around as the elf. And of course, I'm the world's biggest elf. I'm 6'3" and 19 stone, or 265 pounds, depending where you're from.
So you really made the switch into entertainment almost.
Yeah, but remember, I'd been a stand-up comedian for many years.
Of course, that's where the experience helped.
And then I became a product demonstrator. So I was used to doing long days of demonstrating products using a script, but obviously the script would be in our head. And it was just repeating the same jokes in the same place, just getting the crowd energized. And the thing is, once one person steps forward, they all step forward. And that's where it comes. The art of controlling the crowd to even turn around and say, do you want one? Come on then, you put your hand up, show me £10. I'll give you one for £10. You just, different days, because I made the product. When I say it didn't matter to me what I got for it, it was a log. If I did 1,000 people at £10, it was great.
What I'm picking up out of all of this is you've got a lot of experience. You had your armed services experience. You had the Polish farm thing, going through that, the trees, being a market trader, being an entertainer. And it just goes to show it doesn't matter what your experience is. You can mix all these things together and make a successful business from whatever your experience is. So for any viewer watching, you don't need to be an expert at anything, really. You just need to have the will to experiment and try and pick up on an opportunity. That's obviously what you did several times.
Yes, and the opportunity doesn't have to manifest right there and then. You could be talking to somebody and just put into the back of your mind, okay, the guy might be a sign writer. You might think, do you know what? At some point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to need some signs making.
Yeah.
And of course, that's again like Touchstone. It's networking. Podcasting is networking. It's getting yourself out there, meeting the people, keeping them interested, that you could be a customer. Okay, so they might send you a Christmas card. You see where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I do.
And then all of a sudden, when an opportunity does come at the right time and the right place, then everything is already lined up.
Yeah.
You've got the people to call. I think the big lesson is when you say, I don't know to yourself, but think to yourself, but I know somebody who does.
Okay, so with this experience, could you discuss the challenges and rewards of participating in the larger trade events and how they differ from the small sort of Christmas fairs or markets?
Well, okay, start off with a small Christmas market, which actually don't exist anymore in the UK, with the modern retail of Amazon, gone are the street markets. But what used to happen is you'd be able to get there first thing in the morning. You'd have to queue up. Okay, you pay your money, 40 quid. You don't really know where you're going to end up. Okay, but you get put on a spot. Again, with experience, you just turn around and say, I'm not going there. Okay, but that was a day. You pay it on the day, you take your money, you put your stuff, and you go away. Now, when you want to scale up, yes, bigger risks. Okay, you need a lot more experience. Okay, and a higher costs. So what would then happen, like a Christmas market or the NEC in Birmingham, if anyone doesn't know, it's a national exhibition centre. I'm going to say 30 huge halls. And they put on things like the Horse of the Year show or whatever. So, of course, you look at a plan and you've got to try and work out which way the people are flow. People normally come in the door, they'll turn to the right and they'll go around. And of course, they're always looking to their right. So you don't really want to be on the left-hand side. It's a little bit like property, location, location, location. Okay, you're with me on this. So you are trying to unlock the puzzle, okay? And then we got the problem of cash flow, because let's call it £2,000 for a weekend. Well, okay, £2,000 isn't too bad, but you suddenly want to book 10 weekends, there's £20,000. But then you've got all your other added costs of these aren't local to your home, so you're going to have to go into accommodation. Food and drink is always going to be a lot more expensive. You need to have a big enough van, which you might have to rent. So as you sort of extrapolate, your costs start going out the window. And then remember what I said earlier about working out on your space. You just think, actually, I cannot get enough product on that stand to warrant the cost. It's too much of a risk, as opposed to
I get it. Yeah,
reward.
I'm learning something here.
Yeah, and that's where it's difficult, and that's where it's difficult for people who come into the industry. It's such a tough industry to get into now because of Temu, Amazon, Alibaba. But again, they think, oh yeah, it's great, but they end up, you could be on a stand and you're facing a wall. Worst thing ever. We know these things. You might be by the stage. You think it's great. It's going to be busy. We're by the stage. Nobody can hear you because everyone's cheering, or they're running to go and see Gino D'Acampo or whoever is the guest speaker on the stage.
Yeah.
So you just the first stands when they come in, we used to call them running pitches, because even on the market, if people come in, you think, oh, I'll be right here by the entrance. I'm going to see everyone. You're going to see everybody run past you to get
I get that.
their bacon sandwiches or wherever they're going, because they'll go into a big exhibition. They'll always have something they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
They've come there, like the Ideal Home exhibition, they might want to buy a super duper bed. So the first place they're going to do, let's go and get the bed bought, and then we'll mooch around.
Yeah.
So again, with any business, whether it's a coffee shop or a Christmas market, location, location, location.
That's interesting. So what we're looking at here is you found that the old-fashioned way of doing trading stopped working. So what prompted you to start sharing selfie-style podcasts and TikTok posts? How have these platforms impacted your business?
I think just by myself watching them and then seeing what people were doing, but also I've got some very, very good friends in the industry who have changed from, instead of doing, before there would be like a lorry on a market at Christmas selling toys and everyone would be around it, the auction type.
Yeah,
thing.
I do.
You do.
I remember butchers.
Yeah, butchers,
selling meat and stuff like that.
And now, of course, they're doing the exact same thing on TikTok with cheese, with sweets, with chutneys, with whatever you can think of that you used to buy. And it's still, they're all going down the route of, we used to call it, stack it high, sell it cheap.
It's just that people are not physically present anymore.
Exactly. But with the delivery services, and of course, I will say, on TikTok and these followers of these people, they do create a personal bond with them, because if you notice when they're selling on TikTok, people are asking questions. Yes, Janice. Yes, you're going to get some strawberry flavored as well. And they make it all personal. And it is personal because those people do come back time and time again. My very close friend, on Black Friday sale, he did 110 pallets of toys. Think about that.
It's a lot.
110 pallets. What was his overhead? I'll tell you what, TikTok take 10% of everything he sells. Okay, that's the overhead. The rest of it is his storage and his staff.
Yeah.
Okay. And you think it's great when you can work on a percentage. Because when you would go to an exhibition, you didn't know if the actual cost of the stand would be 10% of your turnover or 50%. But with TikTok,
at least you have the information at the start. I've heard it said by another friend and business colleague of mine that the art of selling online the way you do is it's all about building your own tribe.
That's the exact same expression that I use. Build your tribe. This last Christmas, I started putting on Ernie the Elf on live, on the market, okay? And I was getting 25,000 views. I was getting 80,000 likes. And then what I started saying was, look, guys, if you're watching and you want to come and see me, I'll give you one of these snowmen that are £10 free.
Yeah.
Just come and say hi. You don't have to buy anything. I will give you a snowman free. And of course, then people come and visit, and I'd sign it to my number one fan. It's beautiful. Two gentlemen actually said, "Oh, Ernie, we've come to get snowman." I said, "My mother watches you each night. She can't get out of the house. She's stuck in there."
Yeah.
She said, "But she loves it. She loves the way what you do." I'm joking. I'm not scared to say things to people. If they upset me, they'll
I can believe that.
But generally, 99%, obviously, I can't upset customers because I don't want to be kicked off the market. But again, it's just building that community of people just thinking, and then, of course, it's bringing people to your Christmas market, which I hope the organisers appreciate that. They seem to. I didn't get told there was any complaints, but not everybody wants to be on TikTok live, so you're filming it. But of course, I don't know the rules and regulations, but you are allowed to film in public.
Could you describe what you perceive to be your tribe? Could you describe them briefly?
They're everybody. For the elf, they're everybody. Because just people are out, they're having fun. Of course, the youngsters will be there going, look, we're on live. Who are right? So I was just getting huge amounts of followers. They're literally on the spot following you live, and they're great. Hi. I would say that it started getting older. The people using TikTok, they're not just the kids anymore.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah. So I think the tribe for the elf is everybody. Whether when it comes to my personal branding, that's a different story.
So given your active presence on platforms like TikTok, how do you envisage leveraging these channels to transition from the in-person marketing sales to a robust online storefront?
Okay, so personally, I like doing things I like to do. Okay, and when I was first doing the TikTok and getting the big views, a friend of mine who had a YouTube channel, he's still in the war in Ukraine. He said, "Ernie, you need to do YouTube." Okay, and he said, "But you've got to love doing it." I said, "Well, yeah, I like to talk, as you can see." And I'd moved to Bali, and I've got plenty of time on my hands. I don't necessarily want another big business. I had this thought just last week when I was lying by the pool. I thought I should be doing something. I know I've got something to do. I don't know what it is. And I thought, why am I trying to inject my Western lifestyle onto my Bali lifestyle?
Yeah.
Just enjoy it and smell the roses. So I thought, right, leveraging what I've got, what tools I've got, and the fact that I'm not physically anywhere apart from being here in Bali. I'm not in the UK. But that doesn't mean that I can't sell things in the UK. Okay. So I thought what I need to do is develop my personal brand, just me. So going back to, we mentioned the tribe, so that my people, when I mentioned a product, they'll think, yeah. And of course, go to my link, on TikTok, YouTube, wherever it is. I was very lucky. I met a great guy called Eric who explained to me how he could link all my different social platforms together very impressively. So then I had to take a little bit of a back step and say, right, let's do this properly. Let's get the foundations built. And that's where we developed Big Ernie's show.
Yeah.
So that would be where I'm talking to people, much the same as you are. And the way I want to monetize it is the fact that I'm good at finding products. I've got guys in the UK who've got their own fulfillment center. They've got their own studios, TV studios, and fulfillment. So I can order a product. I've got some great products in mind. I can have them shipped to the UK. I can still be here in Bali. Now, the way they're going back to the TikTok that we were talking about, remember I said TikTok take 10%.
Mm-hmm.
So my buddy who's got the fulfillment center in the studios, if he likes the product, he will advertise the product himself in his studios. And basically, for ease of TikTok would take 10%. We're left with 90%. We just split it down the middle. 45% each. I cover the cost of the product, and he covers the cost of his studios and fulfillment. Simple. Then you have what is called collaborators. So he might have his own collaborator. I'm talking about a guy who's posting out 5,000 parcels a day. This is, a lot of product. So he has collaborators who work with him. Okay, so they'll advertise this so-called product. I'm doing dog chews at the moment, which is something I can get produced locally. Okay, so his collaborator will then do a little video on TikTok of his dog having great fun with his dog chew. So now TikTok take 10%, the collaborator takes 10%, the 10% comes out of my partner's 45%, so he gets 35%, but all he has to do is fulfill it. Okay, I get 45%. Okay, but I can also sell it myself. Okay, and to my tribe, and then TikTok get 10%. Let's call it 10% for the fulfillment. Okay, and I get 80%. Then I might have a collaborator, and then the 10,
Yeah.
So the great thing about using TikTok, okay, is its percentages. I have to pay out for the product and get it shipped to the UK. Okay, but I'm not having to pay £2,000 out for a stand at the NEC.
Yeah, that's very clear. It gives you a real opportunity to control your outgoings, your costs, and I think that's a great thing. So that's very clear how you are using online. So, what strategies have you considered to convert your social media followers into loyal online customers? And how do you plan to maintain that personal touch that defines your brand in the digital marketplace?
Well, first thing I think everyone's got to be aware of that it changes all the time.
Yeah.
The way that customer acquisition is what you're talking about, whether it's through me talking to them on TikTok or sending them an email or through a newsletter.
Yeah.
Okay. And it does change, because before people would open their emails, but because they get so many emails that they don't open them. So you have to maybe think of a way around, how am I going to get them to open the email? Okay. So that changes all the time. And one of the things I try and do is stay informed. How are they doing this? What is it?
Yeah.
I like the free. Now, the main thing I'm just going to, if I say finish with, the last product that I'm doing now, which is these dog chews. They're made from coffee wood, a local product. They're fully sustainable, fantastically healthy for the dog. But they have what is called built-in obsolescence. Do you know what built-in?
I do.
I'll just explain very quickly. The way to think of built-in obsolescence was the original light bulbs never ever blew. They lasted forever. Your mum's light bulb, she would have had her whole life, but that you couldn't make any money out of that. So they changed the filaments so they had a life on them. Same as with Apple with their phones, don't they? All of
Absolutely.
a sudden, the battery stops working. That's built-in obsolescence. So the great thing with the dog chew is they last about a month. Now, at the end of that month, your dog is still going to want to chew. Okay. So what I will do is I will give you a subscription service. So the biggest cost is customer acquisition. I'm just using figures here. Let's call it $15. Okay. If I say $15, let's say $5 of that is customer acquisition. So that's 33%. Yes. Okay. Well, now, of course, once I've got that customer, I can say, look, just send me $10 every month through standing order. Every 28 days, you'll get a coffee with dog chew land, and your dog's going to be over the moon. They think, well, $10, he's not chewing my shoes. Perfect. He loves it. And so it's a subscription model, which is where I want to be. If you can get 1,000 people per month giving you $10, okay, you start each month with $10,000. But then if you can grow by 10%, okay, per month, okay, and then we're talking compounding now. So you're going out, you're still spending your same customer acquisition, okay, costs, but if you can then convert them into a subscription model.
Okay, Ernie, thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
And it's been a pleasure. We got there eventually.
And to our viewers,
two alpha males.
To our viewers, thanks for watching us this time. Please remember to follow for a free subscription, like and share to your contacts. If you have any comments, if you have any subjects you'd like us to talk about, please don't hesitate. Down there in the box below, tell us what you think. Thanks very much. Until next time, bye bye.